Hetapu, assalamu alaikum, namaste, haru nefer. This is Qesankh with another exciting video for you. In this video, we're going to talk about healing past life trauma and karma. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. If you're looking to get to know my spiritual teachings a little bit better, you can download an ebook and you can just scroll down below. There are several links down there. Click on one, download it, and start reading today. If you want to take your learning to the next level and become a magi, a master magician, you can become a Patreon supporter. You can do so for as little as $1. $5, $20 per month is up to you. There's no obligation and you can cancel at any time. You'll get exclusive access to instructional videos on how to summon spirits, how to contact the ancestors, how to put together a magical amulet, how to work with magical powders and herbs and put together an altar, how to do self-hypnosis to curb your overeating, smoking, or alcoholic addiction, and so much more. So become a Patreon supporter today. Last but not least, share this video with family and friends so we can get the revolution started. Haru Nefer. So let's get into this. One of the great things about the Kemetic spiritual system of cultivation is that it really focuses on ridding yourself of what we call conditionings or negative habits. And these conditionings will cause us to get caught up in the cycle of karma, being reborn, reborn again. And you may not subscribe to the idea of reincarnation, but this is something our ancestors from antiquity understood very clearly. And they prepared for death, the afterlife, they prepared for their next lives. And they did so during the present life. And you must understand that everything exists simultaneously. So your past lives, so-called past lives, are actually going on right here and now, because there's no such thing as the past or the future. There's only the now present moment, and everything is happening simultaneously. So you're going through many different lives right now. You're in ancient Greek, ancient Egypt. You could be in China or you could be fighting in a civil war. You could be a slave. You could be in a Jewish Holocaust. Everywhere, you know. So keep that in mind. All of these present lives are there, and at one time or another, you will come into connection with those present lives, and you will download information. And if you're lucky, you will recall who you were in a past life. I know that in my past life, in one of my past lives, was Benjamin Banneker, the great scientist. So keep that in mind. Very, very important. But what I want you to understand is that there are two things that we need to deal with in this present life, and that is the conditionings that we have taken on. When we look at the ancient Kemetic deities, specifically Horus or Haru, he is the deity of the will. And the will, we say, is unconditioned. You have a free will. This means that when you come into this life, you're born into this life as a pretty little baby. You go through a process of nurturing where you're picking up on things. You're picking up on things that you learn from your upbringing, your parents, and from society. And those are both positive and negative things. And we call those conditionings. You can call them programmings. Scientology, they call them engrams. So those things, many of them, which are detrimental to who you are, because you see, we are ruled by the primitive aspects of their brain, the reptilian and mammalian brain. And they cause us to have knee-jerk reactions and responses which are based primarily on emotions. See, you're supposed to be living truth. That is what our ancient ancestors wanted us to do, live ma'at. But in order to do so, you must learn to ignore your emotions, because most times your emotions will move toward things that are pleasurable and move away from things that are harmful or painful. Sometimes those things that do you most good are kind of painful. So in order to know what is right and wrong, and specifically too in gaining access to wisdom, higher knowledge, you have to transcend the emotions. And this is what the symbol of Osir or Osiris is about. He's the mummy. He's not influenced by emotions. In fact, God doesn't have the emotional compulsions that we find in the Christian Bible of being jealous or angry. God is beyond those emotions, and so are you, because God placed His consciousness within you. But you are picking up these programmings or these conditionings every lifetime, and you have an infinite number of lives. And the goal is to go through all of these lives to purge yourself or to transcend this emotionalism and become Osir. And we do this by spiritual cultivation. This is how the ancient Kamau or Kemetic people put together their spiritual system. This is why the deities were very important, because the deities represented faculties within them. You know, you have Heteru, and her negative aspect could be jealous, could be vain, could be antisocial, things of that nature. So you're picking these things up from each lifetime. Now, the thing that I was talking about before, the two parts to this is that you're dealing with this lifetime's experience that culminates based on the programming that you're going through. You know, you may have had some problems with your mother, your father, your brother, your uncle, your cousin, your boss, and that makes a profound impact upon you. It gets programmed into you, and that programming can occur when you least expect it. It becomes seated in the subconscious mind, and it stays there as part of a core belief, and it reemerges when there's a proper trigger. This is why you may have drama or baggage that you bring to relationships. You can't help it because you've been programmed with this over the course of time, you know? So the idea is to learn what these are, filter them out, transcend them, so you can become Osir. So you're not gonna eliminate the emotions, but the idea is to become the master of these emotions. This was the symbol of Haru and Set. Set was the emotional animal aspect of you, and Haru was your higher self, or you can say like the neocortex. And Haru gained power and authority over his emotions, and that was the whole story of the Assyrian drama. Keep that in mind. That is your goal in this life, to be vigilant and to watch what comes into your sphere of awareness, so you won't get programmed with negative conditionings, but also to work on purging yourself over the conditionings that you do have. And we do this through a process of what we call in modern day hypnotherapy or trance work. We sit down, we meditate, we visualize the proper outcome. If we have a problem with drinking, we visualize ourselves not taking a drink, being repulsed by alcohol, maybe, you know. We always arguing with our mate. We go into a state of meditation, visualize ourselves loving our mate, having a harmonious relationship. That's how we start to purge ourselves of these. It amazes me how in this sector, how so many people claim to be Kemetic practitioners, and yet they're wrapped up in emotionalism. They're cursing each other out. They're saying things that really betray who they were or who they are, and it's a clear telltale sign that they have not transcended their lower animal aspect, you know, because you can't be a Kemetic priest and you're still controlled by the animal Sahu spirit. That's not right, you know. And you can't be a Kemetic priest when you act upon your own ideas. That's the mind. The mind thinks because it doesn't know. We go to the oracles. We go to Tahuti for wisdom, because we know that the mind comes up with ideas, and those ideas are based on emotionalism. This is why the priest or the ministers who are at the pulpit in many Christian churches or Catholic churches, they, in many instances, get revealed for living corrupt lives, taking money, having affairs. And this is because they have not, there's nothing within their religion that has them transcend their lowly emotions. In fact, their religion actually endorses those emotions. And we find that society at large, especially when it comes to so-called minorities, that we suffer from trauma. And instead of society helping us to transcend that trauma, they normalize it, legitimize it, and becomes a cultural norm, you know, and they make songs about it, and then we get wrapped up in it, and then they set it up so you're locked away for acting out on these things. You know what I mean? So, but we have to learn how to transcend these things, how to become higher beings, to have access to spiritual power, Sekert, spiritual wisdom, Tahuti. And the only way that's going to happen is that we live truth, and living truth is dealing with those emotions. Now, I just spoke at length about emotions that come from this present life. But what many psychologists and many people aren't willing to admit and to accept is that a lot of the hangups that you're dealing with in this lifetime really come from past, so-called past life experiences. You see, the phobias that you have, the fears, the hang-ups, the anger, the shyness can be traced back to a past life. And when we do past life hypnosis or hypnotherapy, we take you back to the origin of those emotions. And then we try to ferret them out because we know that not everything can be traced back to this lifetime. You see, young children have phobias, they have fears. They're too young to have developed those on their own in this life. So where is that coming from? That's coming from a past life experience. And many children can recall their past lives. So we need to learn how to deal with that. You may have died in a very traumatic way in a past life. You may have broke up and had a broken heart, a traumatic relationship in a past life. That is going to have a profound impact on how your relationships are now. And this is why some so-called self-help gurus are not effective in rooting out the cause of the problems that you're having, because they don't understand that these things are coming from different past lives that you're accessing. You're downloading that information, that those behaviors, those conditionings. You don't even realize you're doing it. Again, some come from the present life, the programming from the present life, because the ruling elite, the cabal, want to have you be dysfunctional, and they're doing a very good job of it. But many of it is coming from those past lives that you had. You don't realize it. There may be friends, lovers that you may need to reunite with in this present life, but because you haven't explored the possibility of the idea of reincarnation of a past life, you don't know. And this is not just about trauma or conditionings or programmings, but it could also be in the form of what may seem to be innocuous, but still create problems in this present life. For example, in my past life, I was alone. I had a house. I was alone. I did experiments. I did all kinds of things, gazing up at the stars. I lost my family in that past life. And I spent much of my life in isolation at that house. In this present life, I would have dreams about that house. And lo and behold, I lost my family in this lifetime. And I have a house now where I'm by myself. So I'm repeating that pattern, that type of karma. Now, you must understand that when we get to the higher level of things, there is no right and there's no wrong. So don't think like, oh, because I may be dealing with something that's come from that past life, it's such a negative, bad thing. Don't place a label and define it as such. I could say, well, I'm in isolation. That's not a bad thing because it gives me time to read and study and become a better practitioner of the Kemetic spiritual cultivation. So is that really a negative thing? Absolutely not. But the idea is that thing is continuing to in this lifetime, because many of the things that you experienced in your past, you're just picking up and following suit in this life, and you don't realize it because it's a subconscious process. This is why if things where they should be in this present space-time continuum, you would have priests and priestesses or sages that will come along and reveal to you what happened in your past lifetime, so you don't keep repeating things and it becomes redundant. Your past lifetime, you could have had 20 failed relationships or 20 failed marriages. And in this lifetime, you have 10 failed marriages. Well, a sage will come and reveal to you, hey, listen, you're in this lifetime, you're going to continue having failed relationships until you transcend certain emotions. So do you want to deal with that? Or do you want to continue doing that because that's going to follow you into your next life? And you have to make the decision. But then there are certain things that are immediate and need to be addressed. If you all of a sudden have a phobia of thunderstorms and you freak out when there's lightning, well, you need to address that or you'll never become Osir. If you have anger management issues, well, you need to address that. That's not something you can let go. You understand what I'm saying? So that's important. If you have, like an oral fixation and you had that in your past life and you bring that into this life, well, it's not a big thing. I mean, if you want to continue that, keep going with that. And by the way, I'm drinking, just a commercial break here, I'm drinking Confidence Waters of None Confidence Water. So If you're interested, you can purchase this on my website. And just to let you know, water molecules can be programmed, and they can be programmed for a specific purpose like success, confidence, to attract wealth, or to attract a lover. And on my website, watersofnone.com, you can order these waters, and they come pre-programmed. So if you're looking to address something and have like more success in your life, the waters, your body is like 80% water, and the water molecules in the waters of none mix with the water in your body, and they reproduce, and they create a magnified effect, and you'll find that you'll start attracting certain things into your life, and you'll have a more successful life. So try waters of none. Again, watersofnone.com. It's great. It just tastes like regular water. But again, the water molecules are programmed because we discovered that water retains memory as memory. And these waters are programmed with special ancient mantras, binaural beats, and infrasonic frequencies. So there you go. Secrets. All right. So we we want to be aware of the fact that it's not just an idea of like, oh, I had a past life. Oh, cool. I wonder who I was. Was I a queen of Egypt? Was I Napoleon? Like, it's not just to look at it and go, oh, it's cool. It's to say what happened and how did what happened, is that proper English? How did what happened impact? How did that past impact what's happening today? Am I repeating a karma? Am I caught in a cycle that I can transcend? You understand what I'm saying? So that's important to understand, because you just don't want to stay in that same cycle. The idea is you want to get off that karmatic wheel, transcend, because the goal is to become a higher being, to become Osir, to where you can stay in the inner planes, you can travel the universe, and you can become what we call as a Shepsu, an honored ancestor, and you don't have to be reborn. And then becoming Osir, you have access to spiritual powers. So I want you to think about that. Look at your life, take an audit of the things that you do in this present life, and then start on your own meditations to gain some insight as to what happened in your past life, and see if you can tie the two together. You will see that there's a direct relationship, a direct correlation between the experiences that you had in your past life and those emotional hangups that you have in this present life. And then you need to do the work of ferreting them out, trying to like say, hey, I need to deal with these things. And not because if I don't deal with them in this present life, they're going to follow me into my next life. That is true. But because these things that are happening in your present life, this being controlled by your animal nature, your sahu, is to your detriment. You will never be a free being. You will never be the king or the queen sitting on the throne unless you transcend your lowly emotions. That is so key and so important. And as I said before, society has done such a great job as to take our dysfunctional habits and to normalize them, to make them part of the cultural norm, to legitimize them and say, hey, it's okay to be a mass consumer. It's okay to give in to your emotions. It's okay to be hypersexualized. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to party all the time. Where is this coming from? Where's this behavior coming from? If you lack discipline, we'll start to look back in past lives and say, what is the root cause of that? Not everything is associated with this present life. See, we're so limited as far as psychotherapy is concerned because they don't really take into account the esoteric, the metaphysical. You are a spiritual being, you are a consciousness. And because you have consciousness, you've existed, you've always existed, and you always will exist. And you will have an infinite number of lives. And in those different lives, you will marry, you will die, you will murder somebody, you will steal, you will inherit riches. Everything happens because Neter wants to experience the gamut of all of that. But unfortunately, some of that becomes so tied to your core that you carry it with you into the next life. And that's what you need to address. What have I carried with me from my past life into this present life? What needs to go? What do I need to give a pink slip to? Well, I had to give a pink slip to my over shyness. I had some experiences in the past life, which I brought to this life, which made me too introverted. You understand? My father had experiences in his past life that he brought into this life, which made him angry and aggressive, which needed to be purged. Come to find out, he witnessed the death, and that had a great impact upon him. So let's start looking at this. We are at the helm of a wonderful spiritual tradition that really understands the universe and the makeup of who we are. Whereas Western science only understands the contemporary, what's happening now, and the physical. We understand not just the contemporary, the physical, but the metaphysical, the spiritual that's been coming from the antiquity. So we put it all together in a holistic approach. And they are limited by their thinking, which is based on space time. We transcend space time. We get into 5D and more, fifth density, where there's a singularity. All things are one. All lives that we experience collapse into that singularity of one experience that's happening in the present moment, here and now. This is the culture our ancestors brought to us, and it's still here today in the form of the Kemetic spiritual system, the Egyptian mystery school. And we need to take advantage of it. Please take advantage of it. Don't follow this Western ideology because they make it look cool. Because it could seriously damage you. That's what it's designed to do anyway, because it's going towards Satanism. That's what they want to do. Their goal is to depopulate the planet, indoctrinate everybody into Satanism, heathenistic ideas, sexual perversion, child molestation. The whole works is what that's what they want to do. You know? So please think about this. Save your soul, save who you are. Because you don't have to struggle in this life. Once you transcend these emotions, and once you become a seer, you become a god, and you have access to spiritual power and spiritual wisdom. And you're not subject to karma. You're not subject to the authority of the ruling elite. And that's what they're afraid of. That's what they fear. You awakening to who you truly are, an infinite being with infinite lives and infinite power. This is why they've created these so-called Western religions, which strap you down, lie to you, confine you, and make you believe you're a sinner. You're not. You're a god. So please keep that in mind. If you get an opportunity, please donate to the channel. This is Qesankh Ma Keperu, son of Ma and Tahuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Hedaru. Until the next video. What's a good closing one? Should I just say, Buddha bless you? No, we'll just keep it the same. Amen Ra.